Freedom of speech in the United States is one of the most remarkable and attractive legal protections in the world. It is enshrined in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, a part of the Bill of Rights that was ratified in 1791. This law is often considered the heart of American democracy because it guarantees people the right to speak their minds, share their opinions, and criticize their government without fear of punishment. Imagine living in a society where you can openly disagree with leaders, post your thoughts online, hold a protest in front of a government building, or even produce movies and songs that challenge political or social norms. In many countries, this would lead to fines, imprisonment, or even worse consequences. But in the United States, the First Amendment protects people from such government actions. This freedom is one of the main reasons why the U.S. is known as the land of liberty. The First Amendment does not just cover the spoken word. It also protects written and printed words, art, music, and even symbolic expressions like wearing certain clothes or holding up a sign during a protest. For example, burning the American flag as a form of protest is extremely controversial, but the Supreme Court has ruled that it is still protected as free speech. This shows just how far the law goes to protect individual expression, even when it offends the majority. Another fascinating aspect of this law is the protection of the press. In the U.S., journalists can investigate and report on powerful people, including the president, without fear of government censorship. This is why scandals like Watergate, which led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon, were exposed. A free press is seen as a watchdog that holds the government accountable to the people. Without this protection, many truths might never come to light. However, freedom of speech in the United States is not absolute. There are certain types of speech that are not protected by the First Amendment. For example, speech that directly incites violence, makes true threats, or spreads false statements that harm someone's reputation can lead to legal consequences. Obscenity and child exploitation material are also not protected. But outside these specific categories, the law leans heavily toward protecting the right to speak freely, even when the speech is offensive, hateful, or unpopular. The beauty of this freedom is seen every day in American life. Social media platforms are filled with people expressing opinions about politics, movies, sports, and social issues. Protest marches often take place in cities, where citizens call for changes in laws or government policies. College campuses host debates and speakers from across the political spectrum. While these events sometimes lead to controversy or heated arguments, the First Amendment stands as a shield for open discussion. One of the most attractive elements of the U.S. approach is that it treats free speech as a fundamental right that belongs to everyone equally. Whether someone is rich or poor, famous or unknown, a citizen or a permanent resident, they have the right to express themselves. This principle has also inspired movements for justice and equality. The civil rights movement of the 1960s, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., relied on the ability to march, speak, and write freely to challenge discriminatory laws. Without the protection of free speech, these historic changes might never have happened. In addition to political expression, free speech also encourages creativity and innovation. Artists, musicians, comedians, filmmakers, and writers can produce work that pushes boundaries without fear of government suppression. Hollywood movies often address sensitive topics, stand-up comedians make jokes about political leaders, and musicians write songs about social issues. This cultural openness attracts creative people from around the world to the United States. Of course, freedom of speech also comes with challenges. Because people are allowed to express almost any opinion, society sometimes struggles with hate speech, misinformation, and offensive content. While private companies and social media platforms can set their own rules about what can be posted, the government generally cannot punish people just for expressing a view. This balance between freedom and responsibility is constantly debated in American life, especially in the age of the Internet. Another example of the strength of free speech in America can be seen during election seasons. Political campaigns feature debates, advertisements, rallies, and speeches where candidates and citizens openly discuss the issues. People can publicly support or oppose any candidate without fear of arrest. This environment creates a vibrant democratic culture where ideas compete in the public space, and ultimately, the people decide through voting. The global impact of the U.S. approach to free speech is significant. Many activists and reformers in other countries look to the First Amendment as a model for their own struggles for freedom. The idea that an individual can stand up to authority and speak the truth without being silenced is powerful and inspiring. Even though the United States faces its own challenges with misinformation and social conflict, the principle of free expression remains a cornerstone of its identity. In everyday life, you can see the effects of this law in simple moments. A college student handing out flyers about climate change, a comedian performing jokes about the government, a protester holding a sign in front of Congress, or a journalist publishing a critical article about a corporation, all of these actions are protected under the First Amendment. They reflect a culture that values dialogue, debate, and the constant exchange of ideas. Freedom of speech also plays a critical role in protecting minority voices. Throughout history, the majority has not always been correct or just. Abolitionists who opposed slavery, women who fought for the right to vote, and LGBTQ activists who demanded equality all relied on their ability to speak freely to change society. The First Amendment gave them the space to challenge norms and advocate for progress. At its core, the law represents a belief in the power of ideas. The founders of the United States believed that truth emerges from open discussion, not from government control. They trusted that people could hear different opinions, think critically, and make their own decisions. This trust in the individual is one reason why the U.S. remains attractive to people seeking liberty. Even though freedom of speech can sometimes lead to tension and conflict, it is a fundamental part of the American story. It allows the country to grow, adapt, and self-correct over time. It gives individuals the confidence that their voice matters, whether they are praising the government, criticizing it, or simply sharing their life experiences. In conclusion, the freedom of speech in the United States is not just a law. It is a living principle that shapes daily life, fuels creativity, protects democracy, and inspires people around the world. It is one of the most attractive aspects of the U.S. legal system because it embodies the promise of liberty and the belief that every person has the right to be heard. This powerful protection makes America unique and continues to serve as a beacon for those who value freedom.